Everyone. This is my quarter recap video for winter 2016 for my low effort sensing project. The project I'm doing is motivated by the fact that current systems for data collection are not very low effort. And by that I mean that current systems such as SeeClickFix, SeeFixMyCity, and FixMyStreet all require you to pull out your phone and fill out a time-intensive form. So one advantage of this system is that you do get high data fidelity, but you lose on user participation because the effort that it takes to fill out these surveys means that only a handful of dedicated volunteers are willing to do it at any given time. In addition, because you have low user participation, you also get lower data coverage because the people who are willing to do this will only do it on the routes that they travel, and those routes may or may not cover the entire area that you wish to cover. So from this, I can develop 3 research questions. The first is, are there methods to lower the effort that it takes to contribute data? Specifically, can we use wearable devices and contextual touch, such as the Apple Watch and 3D touch on the iPhone, to facilitate and even encourage people to contribute on the go? Next is, the next 2 are based more on how we can take that information and actually make it usable in the same way that current systems do. Specifically, can we encourage users to incentivize them with other information to contribute data? So this would help address the problem that we have right now with data coverage. And finally, can the data that we get be scaffolded into higher fidelity information, at the same time ensuring that the data coverage goes away? So based on these, the system I've developed is a application on the Apple Watch and on the iPhone, which allows users to contribute data from either device. On the Apple Watch, it's a very simple question answer form that I'll show you later. And on the iPhone, there's support for 3D touch to mark locations and also contextual notifications to launch the app. With this, the second part of the system is the actual scaffolding algorithm. The scaffolding algorithm is an algorithm that will take these small pieces of information and combine them into the higher fidelity information that we get from forms, for example. To assess this, some metrics that we define for how quickly the data is coming in include whether or not there is good quality information coming in versus the ground truth. In addition, are we getting the coverage that we need to get? Basically, are we getting the entire space that we want to cover covered with this system that cannot be done with other systems? And finally, how can we optimize for the fidelity of data that we're getting over time versus the usefulness of the data over time? So for example, even though we might get super high fidelity data as the sensing of a certain location continues, it might not be useful after a certain amount of time because the event would have finished. For example, in the event of free food or there being a speaker. So how can we optimize that in order to make the application the most useful for everyone? In addition, we have to consider how people will actually use this application, and we can divide that into roughly 2 categories. So you have the primary and the secondary responders. Primary responders are anyone who will report the location first. With them, we want to be able to see where they'll report the location from and under what conditions, and also how much data we can obtain from them without discouraging them to use the application. So this might be something where, because they're already going out of their way to contribute the first report, we don't want to ask them any more questions because they're already going out of their way. But we might also be able to ask them 1 or 2 questions to start the location, to start gathering information about the location, which will make secondary responders more likely to answer. With secondary responders, we're looking at those who are going to be pinged about a location that's already monitored, and then for them we must ask them what questions are they willing to answer, and how can we reduce the time that it takes them to answer these questions or to understand what we're asking them. And finally, with them also, we want to know how likely they are to contribute at any given time. Knowing that will help us better direct them to place that we don't have data coverage and we want coverage. So this quarter, I was able to do a couple of rounds of user testing with the system that I built. The key things that I've learned from this system were that having multiple questions on there doesn't mean that people only respond to one. Actually, most of my users said that if there were more than one question given to them, they'd probably answer all of them because they were so simple and easy to do. But also because they almost feel compelled to answer them because there are questions there that are blank. So this might be a good thing or a bad thing. It's hard to tell at this point because while answering more questions means that the system is more effort, there might be a balance between asking them one versus a couple of questions while still maintaining that it is a low effort interaction. Another big thing that I found was that the wording and the feedback has to be very clear when you're on the go, because if anything is ambiguous or the user cannot understand easily what each of the buttons or like the text is doing or what's going on when a user just says submit, for example, it's very hard to do the interaction quickly and while they're on the go. One big flaw with this and one limitation of the user testing that was done is that there wasn't any context given to the user test. So I told the user to assume that there was a free food location, but I didn't put any like poster or actual free food to have them internalize and then fill out more information. So that's stuff that might need to be redone next quarter and expanded upon a little bit to see how we can optimize the internalization time of these tasks. In addition, at the end of each user study, I did a little bit of need finding to see what users might find useful. One big thing was that temporary things such as recruitment events, speakers, and sales or free food of any type were always super interesting. And also things that are not necessarily supposed to be there, such as construction or something wrong with the infrastructure, such as potholes or broken lights and like filled garbage or broken benches or things like that that users like to know about. As far as contributing data goes, what I found was that most users are not very observant about the world when they're going along their routine typically, but if they are pinged, then most likely they will interact with whatever they've been told. And generally, what I found is that if someone finds something interesting, they feel like others may find it interesting as well, and then they would share what they found. And in addition, if the application itself is giving them useful data, they feel like they're obliged to pay it forward and contribute as well. So my overall next steps are to see if there might be potential for an extremely low effort application where the user can contribute without ever having to open the application itself. So on the phone, for example, you could use just 3D Touch to set the location of what type of location is being monitored. And then in addition, when you get notified about a location, you can respond to it straight from the notification itself without having to open up the application. In addition, how might we actually use this application in the real world? So there are some ideas that have been proposed about monitoring events and like things like art fairs and farmers markets, but might it be better, instead of having these very predefined tasks, to instead allow users to input wherever they want and have their own list of questions for monitoring? And finally, how do we make sure that our scaffolding algorithm maximizes contributions and minimizes the attrition rate of people using our application? So with this, the next part will be a quick demo of the system that I built. Hi everyone, this is a quick demo of what I have built on the Apple Watch and on the iPhone for low effort sensing. So what I have here is the Apple Watch application. If I click to open it, what I get is a screen that says begin sensing with a set location button. So if I click on the set location button, it'll pop up a screen saying that there's free food in the area, and it'll ask you to answer one or two questions. So here, the questions I've asked for this prototype are: is there still food? What time is there food until? And the food type. So with this, I'll just say that for food type, which will, once I click it, give me a list of options, I'll say that there's pizza here, and I'll say that there is food until 2 hours from now. So as I fill in this data, it turns green to let you know that you've filled in information, and once I've finished, I can scroll down and hit submit. And then the interaction is complete. Now, when I am notified that there is new information, which will take a second or two, what will happen is the watch will get a notification, and then I can respond to it directly from the watch. So, in a moment, I should receive a notification on the watch. Here we go. So it says that I've entered a region, and I click Investigate. Once I click Investigate, it automatically pops up what that region monitored is, and the information's already been filled out. So for this particular region, it says that there are milkshakes here that will be from 1 hour from now, and that there are only a little bit left because it's going very fast. So because it's all submitted, I'll say OK to submit, and then I'll go back to my main screen. On the iPhone, what this interaction looks like is if I'm on my iPhone's main screen, if I force touch and say mark location, I pop up a screen that asks me to fill in other pieces of information here. So I'll say that there's pizza here and that there is still a lot of food left. The questions are the same as on the Apple Watch, so the interaction is the same in that respect. So once I've finished, I can click Submit, and I get a small confirmation saying the data is saved, and taken back to the main screen. When I am notified that there has been free food nearby, will take a minute, I get a notification here, which I can click Investigate on. Oops. One more time. So when I click Investigate on it, it'll automatically go to the screen that shows the information filled out, and then let me either enter more information or just see what it says and use it. So since all this is filled out, I'll just click back, and because there's not any saved information, I don't care about saving it, and I'm done. And that is the low effort sensing interaction.